Welcome, everybody, to Conversations and Connections. I am so excited you are here. This is a place that we share our journeys of faith, and I am really, really delighted to bring to you Josh Tiessen. So thank you, Josh, for being here today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me, Sandy.
Yeah, it's a joy. I'm very excited today to talk about this intersection of art and spirituality and how God has used this in you in so many impactful ways. So I'm just delighted to have you here for our listeners to learn who you are, how they can get in touch with you, and all the projects that you've worked on before and the ones that are coming that are very exciting.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share a little bit about you so that people have an understanding of who this incredible artist Josh Tiessen is here. So you are an international award-winning contemporary artist. You are based just outside of Toronto. You are known for your hyper-surreal shaped oil paintings, which take up to 1,700 hours, which is just mind-boggling to complete. But I love how you reflect the interaction between the natural world and the human-made structures. And your basis of your studies is a Bachelor of Religious Education, Biblical Studies, Philosophy, and your master's recently in art from U of T. That was literally just in April, right, that you graduated?
Yes, yeah, I just
Yes.
had my convocation back in June. So
Congratulations. It's very
thank you.
exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a journey for you.
Yes.
Definitely. So one thing I have to note is that you were recognized when you were a very young artist as one of the world's top 10 prodigies by Huffington Post and only known male prodigy in North America by a global prodigy expert. And what I'll do actually is I'll link in from YouTube the actual story that they did of you and your brother because
Perfect.
that can't really get into that today, but I'm going to encourage our audience to go into the show notes to watch that just so they get a little even more of an understanding of how that all kind of unfolded in your life.
Great.
So the other thing I have to mention is your how you're mentored by the acclaimed Canadian artist Robert Bateman, and your exhibition since 2006, I believe it was 2006 that you've been doing your exhibitions.
Yes, it's been a
Yes,
while.
it's been a while. National Gallery of Canada, throughout the US, Australia, the UK, and you've sold nearly 200 of your original works and hundreds of limited editions to different people and collectors around the world. So, Josh, my goodness, you are just going around the world. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a joy.
Yeah, it's been a fun
But what I
ride.
love, I just have to do this quick quote that you have endeavored to draw together these two strands and the spirituality and the art as a way to inspire a greater appreciation for the natural world, motivate environmental stewardship, and provide hope in anxious times with humor and some comic relief, which is, I just love how you've been able to blend that. And I will tell you, you have impacted my daughter in just such a profound way just to inspire her and knowing that she's met you and she had a class with you. And so your demographic, you may think it's adults, but it's really not.
Oh,
You're really meeting the younger generation too. So it's wonderful.
it was so sweet to meet your daughter, Katie, and she's so keen and had so much enthusiasm and passion
Yeah.
for art, and I'm glad to hear that she's still keeping up with it.
Yes, actually, I'll have to tell you more about that later, but she does have a teacher here in
Oh,
Glen
okay.
William that she's been working with on a
Awesome.
weekly basis. And it's been really exciting to see how, the spark, like she already had the spark, but then
Yeah.
when she got to your class, she just went, wow, like this is, I think I can do this. So
Oh,
you were a
that's
part of,
wonderful.
yeah, helping her get into this next phase. And so now she wants to take art in high school and she'll continue
Awesome.
with this art teacher as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm just so thankful. So
Oh,
thankful.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I had a wonderful conversation with your mom, and I was able to dig deep into her past a little bit, and she was able to share her story, which is just fascinating. Again, I will link it in the notes for people to have an opportunity to see your mom's perspective. But today, this is your perspective. So, what I'd love to do is I would love to get your earlier perspective on the adventures of your early beginnings and how that shaped your faith.
Sure. Yes. So I think, being born overseas in Moscow, Russia, definitely had an effect on me. My parents were Canadians living there, working as missionaries and professors and teaching. And my mom was involved in my early years, as well as my Russian nanny, who did lots of arts and crafts with me. And
Mhm.
her and her mom, I mean, my mom led this one-room schoolhouse for other kids of missionaries in
Mhm.
southern Russia, where we lived in Krasnodar, and just being, really having the time to develop my creative abilities early
Yeah.
on, doing lots of crafts. My nanny would hold up my stuffed animals, teaching me how to draw them with shading and perspective. And uh, my parents and Annie began to believe that I might have a special gift for art.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember your mom commenting on that and how it was such a unique opportunity to be able to have that time with you, to be able to start to encourage that gift and talent. And sometimes that happens with your kids. You see something early, and something
Yes.
is beginning to bud, and you think, okay, let's provide the opportunity. That's what I loved about your mom and your dad, the way that they talked about how they just said, "Let's go, let's do it."
Yes, for sure. And although they went on to further education,
Mhm.
and that's always been very important in our family. That wasn't something that they forced on us, or going into, a traditional church ministry.
Right.
They allowed us to, pursue our passions, what God
Mhm.
had uniquely given us. My brother being a musician, myself, visual artist. And
Mhm.
I think that was so important, because oftentimes parents have kind of a preconceived ideas of what their kids are going to become, a lawyer, a doctor,
Yes.
or a pastor.
Yeah.
But in my case, they really encouraged me to work hard at it,
Yeah.
to get help and advice from other professional artists
Mhm.
along the
Mhm.
road. But I really credit a lot to my parents for helping set me up, even though they weren't artists themselves, but to really have that encouragement and support.
I love that. And it's such a great reminder for our listeners today that we can't control what our kids are going to do. Bottom line, you can't.
Yes.
But like what your parents did, what I've tried to do throughout my career as a mom, is just providing the opportunities so that something
Yes,
might stick, and trying to shy away from this is the only way you're going to go, because
exactly.
that is going to stifle them. And if they had done that, you likely would have just said, art's too hard. I'll just do whatever. Like I'll do something else. And because art is hard, you have worked so hard to get to where you are today, but you had the
Yeah,
time to do it. Your parents allowed you to do that. That's really wonderful.
for sure.
Really good reminder for us.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about some of your fairly extensive travel when you were young, and as a child, and how that shaped you and your faith actually and into your artistic journey. I know you've spoken about Russia, but I do know that you did quite a bit of travel.
Yeah, so I had been on 20 airplanes by the age of 2, and my family's mobile lifestyle, we had to get our visas renewed living in Russia. So we would travel through Europe and Finland and Cyprus. And then even later, when we moved back home to Canada, my dad's work and my mom meant that working with the mission agency, we would travel. I went on a trip to Mexico with my dad when I was 10 years old. And I think that really broadened my experience of the world, to know
Yeah.
that people live and act and think differently, and also
Mhm.
to celebrate different artistic cultures.
Yes.
Like, for instance, in Russia, we would go to the symphony. The tickets were very, very cheap there.
Mhm.
And we'd also go to the circus, which was also accompanied by orchestra, and to the
Wow.
ballet. My Russian nanny, her daughters were ballerinas.
Mhm.
Still, one of them is actually in the Polish ballet company, the National Polish
Wow.
Ballet Company. So
That's
she's
amazing.
quite accomplished. But
Yeah.
so I think from the beginning, I was really exposed to a lot of different artistic cultures around the world.
Yeah, that must have just filled your mind with wonder of
Yeah,
God's creation and his people, and really truly having a love for other cultures, which I can see in your art that even today that what you're doing, it's just like this beautiful foundation that you were given as a young child has really evolved into your adulthood for sure.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I really credit that in a lot of my work. I draw on, for instance, different architecture as part of the
Mhm.
built environment,
Yeah.
and kind of juxtaposing that with the natural world. And
Mhm.
I find that's what really excites me. Even my
Mhm.
brother,
Mhm.
who's a musician, composer, often overlays, different instruments that he
Yeah.
owns from all over the world. And I think that's just such a beautiful expression to see the image of God that's placed on individuals and cultures, and how it's just this very unique expression of
Yeah.
creativity that can glorify God.
Yeah. And we have such a creative God. And you are truly pulling out the gift of having a creative God, and you're honoring
Yeah,
him through your work, so that so many people from different walks of faith and backgrounds are able to see God in your
yeah.
work. And I'm sure it just evokes conversation after conversation about even just the title of some of your works, and then the beautiful things that you have been able to do with your coffee table books, The Streams in the Wasteland, which we could talk maybe a little bit about in a bit.
Sure.
But people are just, they just look and it makes them think, and they're like, wow. And so it makes them dig deep really quick with your work. And I think that that is just a really unique calling on your life, that I think people aren't necessarily prepared for, but I think it's important
Yes.
that they do that, right?
Yes, and as a result, one thing I've found throughout the years, starting to exhibit. My first show was when I was 11 years old, and since I was 16, I've been exhibiting, making a full-time living for my work. But it's meant that I've been able to have conversations through, gallery shows and art
Yeah,
fairs, that
yeah,
I've had my work on display. That although my work isn't, what people would traditionally think of as religious art, I think
right.
what's special about art is that it's this cultural bridge and meeting point for people from
I agree.
various religious or non-religious backgrounds. And so it's been a way to have really fruitful dialogue and
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I love how you're taking that as an opportunity, because that will inspire people forever, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about um, kind of how you did find your own style.
Yeah, so early on, I gravitated to nature and wildlife. My
Mhm.
artist mentor, Val, when I was 9 years old, who discovered me at a church children's club, her specialty was in wildlife and pet portraiture.
Mhm.
And her specialty was chalk pastel. So that was the medium I naturally began with. And also, people had said that my work reminded them of acclaimed Canadian wildlife artist Robert Bateman.
Right?
And
Yeah.
so I wrote him a letter with some of images of my paintings. I
Mhm.
gradually transitioned to acrylics, which was,
Yeah.
his medium of
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
And I studied with him out in British Columbia, which was a huge honor. But I
Yeah.
was also, interested in not just being kind of pigeonholed within
Mhm.
wildlife art. I wanted to explore faith through my work
Right.
and symbolism. And then I think it was in my later teens when, although I still very much committed to, natural observation and anatomical accuracy of the animals that I paint, I became interested in kind of more of the surrealist elements
Mhm.
of juxtaposing subject matter. And I actually went on to study a Bachelor of Religious Education degree, and I got interested in the biblical prophetic books in my
Mhm. Mhm.
classes, and thinking through of how these incredible visions, which are so poetic and imaginative,
Mhm.
that really shaped my artistic voice.
Yeah.
And Streams in the Wasteland, which was the
Yeah.
the coffee table you're just
Yeah.
holding up,
Yeah.
was, I would say, my first thematic body of work, where
Okay.
over several years I developed my own style and vision on the world of integrating my interest in creation and theology and philosophy and history into my own unique style, which I coined narrative hyper-surrealism.
No, it's really, it's masterful. And it just, every time, because we have a few of the pieces here, and every time I walk by, it makes it just, I think about something unique and different about whatever's in that particular painting. And I think that for whoever has an opportunity to see a painting, whether in a book, online, or even in your studio, or they own one, I think that that will just continually do that for people. And that is a really unique gift that keeps on giving. So I really hope there's more coming, which I know there is. We'll talk about later.
Yes, yes, there is.
Yeah. But I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about you and your brother Zach, and how you're both so gifted and unique in different ways, but yet you complement each other. So can you talk a little bit about how the two of you kind of ended up, not necessarily when you were like 8 years old and say 6 years old, thinking, wow, we're going to work together one day, but how did that begin to unfold for you and your brother?
Yeah, so we are always very close growing up. I think being home educated together
Mhm.
and playing basketball. We also would hike in the woods, and we'd have there was a pond close by to where we lived. And I think we are also very, very competitive naturally as brothers. So
I have
of
two
course,
older boys that I get it.
yes,
It's a
you get
part
it.
of you.
We have our moments. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
that's
Um,
okay.
but Zach found music later in life. So I had art very, very early on, but
Mm,
he unfortunately was a little bit in my shadow for several
mm,
years
yeah.
until my artist mentor brought him a acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
and it was traumatic time. He had multiple head injuries, and there's a whole story there that I'll leave for another time. But he became fascinated with guitar and teaching himself at a breakneck speed, learning music theory. And naturally, when he came out with his first EP, I did the album artwork and design. And
Yeah,
then as he got into film scoring, he always needed like some visuals to
right.
score to. So he
Yeah.
created his own original soundtracks. And our first collaborative project was with Streams in the Wasteland, where
Mhm.
I suggested the idea to him of composing a unique track based
Right.
on each of the 17 paintings in the series. So that was our first time working together
Wow, that's
officially.
amazing. So let's talk a little bit about what is up and coming for you. So something that you
Yeah.
have completed, but will be actually coming out this fall. So maybe share with our listeners today what is coming
Yes.
that we can look forward to.
Yes. So I have a new book coming out this September. It's called Vanitas and Viriditas, which is Latin for vanity and vitality. And it's based on my latest painting series, which culminated in a solo exhibition last year in New York City at Ray's Contemporary Gallery. And now Zach has composed a soundtrack. He
Mhm.
enjoyed the first collaboration and offered to compose a new CD. And so we're going to be doing a book and CD launch, which is going to coincide with a retrospective exhibition at Redeemer University's gallery in Ancaster, Hamilton area this September. It's going to be opening on September 12th. And Zach's also going to be doing a concert along with other musicians and Redeemer students so
Amazing.
that we get their student body involved.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we're excited for
yeah,
Canadians to experience this in
yes.
person now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually listening to the soundtrack, that little piece that you'd
Awesome.
sent, and looking at the beginnings of the book that will be coming out, and it's just incredible. And it was very, very calming. I was working on
Yes.
something, and I had it on in the background.
Yes.
It was really, really lovely. So this just how you complement each other is just such a beautiful gift that God has allowed your family to have, and that I'm sure this will be just one of more projects to come, but it's very exciting.
It is, and just being involved because I'm not a musician at all. Like Zach got all that talent. I'm tone deaf. But being able to travel with him, so he recorded the soundtrack with the Budapest Scoring Orchestra, and
Yeah,
so
I
I
read
was
that.
there getting photos and video of him.
Yeah,
But seeing him thrive and for this project to come together in this way, it's exciting.
so exciting. Yeah, I'm so excited for both of you. Yeah, so looking forward to that. For sure, September is coming quick. So yeah,
Yes, it is.
yes, yeah. So I wanted to know because there are going to be people watching today and wondering about I'm an artist or I have an interest in art and I
Yeah.
can't do anything. How am I going to make this even as a potential career? How would you encourage somebody today who is maybe they are younger in their, teens or in their
Hmm.
even 20s or 30s, or even if they're a little bit older, how would you encourage somebody today who does have this burning desire to potentially use their artistic gift for
Yeah.
something?
Well, I would say that it's a lot of hard work and you have to accept help from others. I had
Mhm.
mentors along the way,
Yeah.
but I think to really enjoy the process for me, I've never put pressure on myself in creating because
Yeah.
I think the best art comes from a place of joy and
Yeah.
peace that's cultivated in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, if they're a person of faith, I would say that maybe do a little bit of research on, for instance, the Western canon of art history has some incredible masterpieces that have been created by Christians over the years, whether that be the Book of Kells or the Sistine Chapel or Bach's amazing symphonies. That there's people who have been able to reflect an authentic faith and
Mhm.
also a pursuit of excellence, and
Yeah.
those things aren't mutually exclusive, that everything we do should honor God the creator. And I mean that's the first verse of Genesis. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, that God wanted to first be known as a creator. And I kind of think of it as he's the ultimate master artist. And so thinking about that should really be empowering
Mhm.
for creatives, that we are given these creative gifts for amazing purposes.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. It goes back to kind of what we talked about at the beginning too, just allowing your kids, if you are a parent that's listening today,
Yeah,
um, to explore those opportunities. And even if they aren't going to be an artist or a musician, exposing them to the greats, to the
yes,
excellent, and
yes,
allowing that to guide them however God is going to use that in your life. So I think that's,
yes,
yeah, it's beautiful. I love that faith and excellence. That's so true. So true.
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been incredible. I am really excited to be able to share this interview with everybody so they can get to know a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. And I'd love to have you share too, if people want to get in touch with you or in contact with you or see what you're doing, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so they can check out my website at joshtiessen.com. I
Okay.
also have an occasional email newsletter that I send out, so people can find out about my upcoming events and like this new book launch in
Mhm.
September. And so, yeah, anyone's welcome to also visit my studio here in Stony Creek. I'm halfway between Toronto and Niagara Falls, so if you're in the area, feel free to reach out and book an appointment. I'm always happy to see the work of young budding artists as
Oh,
well,
that's
and
wonderful.
encourage them.
Oh, that's very kind. I'm sure that will be a inspiration for people because just like with my own daughter, she was so inspired just to walk into that studio and to see it alive, and then for you to just work with them. And so thank you again for doing that. Thank you for your kindness and for your gift that you're sharing with the world. I'm so excited for what is to come with you, Josh. It's a pleasure to be able to partner with you in this journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being supportive of me and my creative work. It's honestly been such a blessing. And I also know that you're an author as well, and wish you all the best with your work and with the ministry of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, it was great to chat, and I look forward to catching up with you again. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, great. Take care.
Thanks, you too.